Hi everyone, how are ya? I am watching this really good breakdown from Heels in the Air, and she did Bullhorn Betty a 22-month retrospective, and it just brings so much back because there are some things I didn't see because when Bullhorn Betty was terrorizing the neighborhood of Quentin Simon, she said some really rude things, and I just felt bad because there were actual police out there that were in the heat looking square inch by square inch through the landfill for Quentin. And they were working day in and day out through the heat with no thanks, as they do every day in law enforcement. They don't have these high-profile Bullhorn Betty shit shows, if you will. They don't have people bringing them food while they're out there really doing the work. And so Bullshit Betty's out there with her little crew and making as much noise as possible so that the person who wanted to just simply be left alone to pass away in their home on hospice in their neighborhood where they lived, they weren't able to pass away because of her chaos and yelling and screaming. And so that person had to call 911 to ask to be transferred to a place where they could peacefully die. That really upset me as I worked for a number of years in hospice. And I know that those last few days are not easy, just to put it mildly. And you should let somebody be in as much peace as they would like to be. And just the very thought of me being in that position in my final hours, or me taking care of somebody in their final hours, and some asshat from another state coming up and using a bullhorn and harassing neighbors and harassing people that have not yet went to trial and went through our American court system to see if they are guilty as charged. I know that Betty certainly has had her days in court and probably appreciated very much our American court system so that she was not treated in this way for the crimes in which she committed repeatedly to multiple different people. But if you dare to put that up, she will strike your channel. Let me tell you that. So basically, people were donating money to this little circus, and money, food, anything they wanted. So they're sitting there doing this. The person can't die. They're being sent food, and you know what Betty says? She doesn't say thank you to the people who did send food. She said, next time make sure it's hot. Because apparently the food that she was sent for free while she was sitting on her fat ass wasn't hot enough for her. Because, you know, food has to be hot enough for Betty. And it just repulsed me. And so I spoke out on my own channel, and there used to be a system, and I don't know if it's still in place, where you could strike a channel by having 3 different people report that channel at once. So if you looked at how that would be, they were sitting there in their little circle jerk. I think that Turtle Boy was the pivot man, but who am I to judge? Anyway, if there were how many of them sitting around? So by logic and deduction, allegedly, it is my opinion that they sat there and watched for comments against them and said, okay, here's this person. Who? Okay, that person, report their channel, report their channel, report their channel. Because my channel was entirely struck down. I was a rather new creator at the time, and I didn't understand that this is a process that happens, that channels can be terminated and you can appeal. So I woke up, and I went to go on YouTube, and there was a blank screen, and it said, your channel has been terminated. You are not allowed to go on a backup channel. You are not allowed to ever start a channel again. You are never allowed to go on YouTube again. Basically goodbye. And I had never had a strike, never had any concerns or anything like that. I had not broken any rules that I was aware of at that time. So it was just really tough because I hadn't backed up anything. I had put in a lot of work, and I was just really scared. Others who were very supportive of me reached out to other creators who emailed me and told me that I just needed to plead my case to YouTube. Don't do anything to make them mad. Don't go to a backup channel. Just behave for a couple of days and fill out the proper form. And so I found that form in my email, and you have to find a couple of different things. And so it was kind of tedious, definitely. And it was just scary because it just felt so final. But I did that, and 48 hours later, my channel was back, and it just said, your channel's back. Sorry, it was a mistake. You didn't do anything wrong. Over the next few weeks, I saw a lot of newer channels with similar names, etc., etc. And I found out that a lot of people had lost their channels that were swimming in the same circle that I was. And so I would ask around and they'd be like, yeah, my channel got canceled, so I started a new one, etc., etc. So basically, they were controlling the narrative if anybody spoke against them, that they would just take their channels down. And that's just messed up. I feel it's disgusting what they do. I feel that when families are out having the worst day, worst week, worst moments of their life, that they see that as an opportunity to get an all expenses paid vacation and go. And how much does Bullhorn Betty allow per meal? Is it $20? Is it $50? I can't remember. But she's got to have those steaks in the airport and everything else. I mean, Betty has standards, and the motel she's staying in don't look like they're second rate. So she wants to go and be in a position of, I can't even imagine what level law enforcement you would have education and work experience enough to be able to just travel and have one case at a time, and be able to go and stay in nice motels, set your own hours, and act like an idiot. I can't imagine what kind of a job that would be, but she's found out a way to make that a job. She didn't work out in too many other jobs that she tried, and I don't think that she could go into law enforcement with the history of actually her assaults. So I thought it was just kind of crappy that that's the way that she does things, and that people support her as opposed to actual law enforcement sitting there in the hot landfill working inch by inch, being criticized by her. So seeing what was going on in that time, because my channel was down, is kind of interesting. One of the things that I observed while watching Bullshit Betty is a little game that her and JLR do. Now, going forth, I must, of course, say that I am doing this under fair use, that I am doing this as entertainment purposes only. I don't know anything. Anybody should do their own research and never listen to me. I like to feel like I am sitting down with a friend, having coffee or tea, and we are just discussing things that are going on, and it should be taken about as seriously as that you're my friend. We're talking about human behavior, and that's that. So with that disclaimer being said, I was very upset by JLR, the convicted identity thief, the felon, the convicted felon who was in prison for how long? That he essentially created the practice known as phishing. So all of those things that you have to go through on your computer, that's because of the troll that is JLR. If you wonder about JLR lore, go on Wikipedia and look up JLR. So JLR and Betty were friends. I don't know exactly what went down, but they were traveling together. Something happened, and it was observed, I believe, on, oh, I can't think of his channel right now. He is not on anymore. And he talked about it, that essentially JLR was issuing cease and desist to anybody who said that him, JLR, and Betty were friends, associates, otherwise in cahoots. He did not want them to be related to anything on anybody's channel. And you have to wonder why. Well, it was my feeling in observing this is because they play this little game and they don't want anybody to be able to figure out their little game because this is what they do. Now, again, I am doing this off of Heels in the Air, her big episode, Bullhorn Betty, a 22-month retrospective. I recommend anybody going to Heels channel and checking her out. I love me some Heels in the Air. I find that she does very good, accurate reporting, and I feel that she puts together clips just flawlessly. And I really like her. I think she's beautiful too. But anyway, she has this clip. And what's going to happen here, as this states, it says, Bullhorn Betty goes to CPAC and falsely accuses a man of assaulting her. Now, if you go to my channel and you look at the shorts, the little videos that are shorts, you're going to see on my playlist of questions I'd like to ask Betty, you're going to see where Betty is interviewed at one of these Trump rallies, and they say, what are you doing here, ma'am? And she says, oh, I have a true crime channel, and that funds me to be able to go to these events. But when she's raising the money and playing on people's tragedies, she doesn't say, hey, I'm going to take that money that you just gave me to go and cover this case to go to this Trump rally, now does she? No, she doesn't. She's not exactly consistent or truthful, in my opinion. Now, this game that she and JLR play is they go to these things. I don't want to say together because I don't want to cease and desist. I mean, in my experience, cease and desist make for the best toilet paper. But I just, I don't want anybody to waste a stamp on me. So let me see if I can show you what's happening here, and then I'll break it down a little more, again, under fair use. Watch the man on the right very closely. Watch his sunglasses.
Hey, Brian. Every few months,
Now there's Betty. Watch Betty.
Betty in the back. She's coming around here.
She comes around.
There's JLR to the left.
She starts slithering. And then we've got JLR, not blinking.
Not Betty probably didn't want to. There's Betty right there.
Got Betty right there.
There's his hand.
Okay.
See? Walks off. Arm is down. Never touched her.
Okay. Watch Betty. Watch the man. See his arms? Okay. I am like this man. I am Italian and I talk with my hands. If I sit on my hands, I literally can't talk. It's true story. I flail all around wildly when I talk. This man may be a family member for all I know, because he is talking and he is getting his opinion out to the Trumpsters. He is obviously in opposition to what they're saying, and he is talking and he is flailing his arms around. So while he is flailing his arms around, Betty comes and slithers around, and she is going to accuse this man of hitting her. Now, it is my opinion that he did not hit her. It is my opinion that he was flailing his arms around, and this is a game that I have seen play itself over and over with JLR and Betty, in my opinion, on my entertainment only stream here. Okay, so we're going to keep going. Okay. Now this man's right there. Okay, now watch. So this man's there. Okay, there's this man. Okay, now, as Heels writes in there, she says, and look who shows up to be, because, watch this. There he is. Okay, there's JLR, and JLR is going to claim to be a witness to something that didn't happen, but JLR never blinks, so Lord only knows what he sees versus the general population that does indeed blink.
Why did you assault a woman? Why did you assault a woman? Put your mask on. Why did you assault a woman?
He's pushing his hands back. Okay, so JLR has the hat on his frenulum up there, and Betty is still slithering around, and basically this is something that they do that I have observed by watching intently, and they go to these rallies, act like they are not together. They do not want to be associated anywhere on the internet or otherwise, because somebody might figure out their little game. So what happens here is that the person who is the loudest against what they are doing, so they like their Trump narrative, their Trump whatever, I don't know. I'm neutral on how I feel about Trump. But they go and they put themselves in front of the person who is the loudest on the other side. So somebody who's anti-Trump. And Betty goes and slithers up, and then Betty says, "Oh, help, help. I'm a lady and I was just hit. And I'm a lady. I was just hit. Help me, help me." And then other people are like, "Oh my God, a woman was just hurt." And she's like, "I'm wounded. Help me, help me, help me. I've been wounded. Help." And so she plays the damsel in distress. Okay. And people around are going, "What? You were just hit? What's going on?" And then people start yelling out for security, which you saw security come in rather quickly. And then you saw JLR come around the corner and say, I witnessed it. Because, like I say, he doesn't blink. So he's saying that he witnessed it. Okay. What they do with this is then they have security get, allegedly, a police officer, if that's the way that they do it. But either way, their goal is to write down the name of the person who they are falsely accusing of assaulting them. The person who was, in fact, the loudest in opposition to what they wanted to be heard. Okay. And then what do you think that they would want that for? Well, that is because then they have that person's name, address, personal information, and with that, JLR can single-handedly ruin that man's world. That's what he does. He is a professional, convicted, felonious identity thief. With that, they find his social media. Now, if you go on Wikipedia and you find out how many different profiles JLR has, again, because he doesn't blink, he can make a lot of social media profiles. Well, the rest of us would have to blink, and, have other things to do, like take care of our families, jobs, cleaning the house and whatnot. But JLR is just mobile and goes places to do these things that he does, now that he is not in solitary confinement. So he will then take his different social media profiles that he describes. He has described what he does, and he is very proud of what he does. He has many social media profiles. And what he does with them is that then he will pit those profiles into fights. And he will make it look like all of these people are fighting this person to make this happen, and this person and that person. Meanwhile, it's him behind all of the profiles, making each one look like it is fighting this and that to just cause chaos and to create the narrative in which he wants. Imagine how that would feel to this man who just came about this, and maybe he goes to other rallies and he goes and says what he wants to say about Trump. Who knows? But that's our American judicial system. Isn't it funny that they are with a group that wants to talk about freedom and our nation and our Constitution and freedom of speech and America and jurisprudence? Isn't it ironic that that's what they act like they are fighting? Well, in truth, they are the ones who are fighting against what our beautiful country stands for. They don't want anybody else to have freedom of speech. That is the problem. That is not what America is about. So why are they acting like they are fighting for America and American values, meanwhile doing the exact opposite? They want other people to feel like they are, I mean, I'm not going to say it. 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 It's just sad. And I hope that other people are watching this.
He hit me right in the face.
She says, Betty just walked away and said, "You hit me right in my face." You did not. Okay? You didn't get hit in that face. You didn't. I mean, it didn't happen. So, once again, watch this. She walks up.
Betty in the back. She's coming around here. There's JLR to the left. Now watch him. He never touches her. Not Betty probably didn't want to. There's Betty right there. There's his hand. See? He walks off. Arm is down. Never touched her.
Never touches her. He never touches her. He never touches her. I'm keeping it down because the music there, Heels has in here, and I don't know if it will let me upload because of the music, and I don't have the rights to the music. But this fat man there comes in as Captain Save-A-Ho, and he goes right along with that lie that man hit her in the face. Now, historically, any other man who, well, I don't know how many men have gotten violent with Betty, but historically, Betty has been able to defend herself. She can throw hands, and she can put hands on people's necks and everything. So she's not helpless. If she were to be assaulted, you know, of course, this wouldn't be anything that I would be reviewing. I believe there's enough hurt in the world, and I don't like to contribute to hurt in the world unless the person doing the behavior that I am calling out causes much more hate and hurt in the world. And at this point in time, I feel that Betty really causes more harm than she helps. And I feel that she is open about her past addiction history, and it is my opinion that she is also a rageaholic. So while we see her just screaming and raging and getting very, very angry every morning when she does her stream, she gets up and has that coffee and she has her rage, and that's what fuels her. That rage, that anger gives her energy. It gives her life. And a rageaholic is a real addiction, and there are some serious issues. And right now, JLR is well known for his antics in the courtroom. He has restrictions on him that he cannot file lawsuits unless he has an attorney, and there are other provisions because he has a history of many nuisance lawsuits. Betty has always wanted to do something similar based on the way that she talks about going to court, etc., etc. So she is trying this, and I don't think it's working out very well. Queen Bee, who she is in litigation with Betty right now, Betty filed a lawsuit against Queen Bee basically for reviewing her. Queen Bee has the support of the community and a great lawyer who is just on top of things and has really done his research, and is countersuing. The PI that Betty just said some really mean things about in the last couple of weeks, looks like he is also going to put a lawsuit against her. I think that it's time, because she is a prolific bully. She will talk about how she is the one going to these government hearings, and she is the one doing all of this, and what are the rest of us doing? Well, if you look up what she's doing at those government hearings, she is raging on government officials and threatening them. Basically, there's a news article, I think Chronicles of the Shady had it on their Twitter, and it begins Manatee Woman. You can't post it because it does have her criminal history in it, and as Florida has the sunshine laws where everything is very open, it has her address in there, so you can't link that in a video. If you do, she has it taken down very fast. So this has been a little episode of me watching Bullhorn Betty, a 22-month retrospective from Heels in the Air. And it looks like Heels in the Air's Cash App. There is the number sign 2, Heels in the Air right there. So that's where hers came from. And I will end on this note. Thank you for listening to my entertainment only, on my opinion only, under fair use. And thank you in advance, Heels in the Air, for all of the great work that you do, and for putting this up so that it was here for me to clip, and I will send it to you when it is done and clipped. Thank you. Bye-bye.